the only one who can answer questions and who knows the relationships and who knows the staff. The staff is loyal to the prior owner. The staff is not yet loyal to you, and you need to understand that. So when you're coming in and you don't know how to run this business, that puts you in a very tough position. So I would say right out of the gates, the buyers need to understand, do you have a team there that's ready to run the business closing plus one?
Welcome to Steel City Growth. I'm your host, Bill Ildenfritz. Each week, we'll explore the passions, expertise, and experiences of business owners and founders in the greater Pittsburgh area. Steel City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, committed to providing exceptional services to meet all your business needs. Let's dive in. Looking forward to this chat with my next guest. He is an experienced lawyer who focuses on helping entrepreneurs with the legalities of business ownership. He has been admitted to the bar in both Pennsylvania and in Florida. He's a partner at Cozza Law Firm. Matthew Bolewitz, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, I look forward to it. We worked on, a couple of cases together, a couple of clients, and you did a hell of a job. So I really appreciate everything you did for my clients, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, so the first question we ask all of our guests is this. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right. What is the number one most important strategy for growing your business?
Yeah. So I don't think it's something that's unique to our law firm, but I do think this is something that any business owner, any listener out there certainly can take and utilize. And that is, you need to know who you are. You need to know your brand voice, because a lot of it, when we started, it's easy for the founder and it's easy for the executive team to know the vision, to know the clarity, to know where we're going, where the boat's headed. But if that actually doesn't get conveyed to your team, when you do start growing and start adding people to your team, whether that's 5 people or 50 people, that message is going to get lost. So what we've done here is you need to know what your mission is, what is actually driving you and your business. And for us, that is, we provide peace of mind to our clients. And think about that from a law firm perspective. That is our main driver, providing peace of mind. Now, how do we do that? How do we get there? And I think that's the step 2 in this process, which is, what are your non-negotiables? I use the example of when you go into theme parks, you have to be this tall to ride the ride, right? You need to have non-negotiables for your business as well, especially creating from the founder and the executive level team. What are our values that we're not going to bend on? We're not going to allow someone to come in here and then change or manipulate what those values are. So we have 3 of them here. We have, first and foremost, you have to be a good human being. And we can get into these in more detail, but that's our number 1 core value. Number 2, you need to have the entrepreneurial spirit. And that's a unique one. And that's one that we can dive into more. And the third one is the willingness to get dirty. So those 3, and these are things that it took time to figure out what we really wanted to make our core values. It's easy when it's just a small team, but as people grow, you could see how much more difficult it was to make sure that we were unified in a unified front. So now we have those. It's very easy. That drives our interview process. That drives our day-to-day. We can go back to those anytime someone has come into our firm and then has left. It's almost like a self-selection process out. We could always identify one of those 3 or more than one of those 3 core values that were violated, right? So if you have those, that has been a tremendous help to us. And I think, again, that's not unique to our law firm. I think that's unique. That could be applied to any business or for any business owner.
I agree with you, but I think you and Rocco do a heck of a job of that for sure. I love the peace of mind. I actually really love that. I think that's really, really good. Because I know a lot of times my clients, that's what they need. They need a peace of mind. They're selling their business, their baby, or they're looking to buy a business for the first time. It's very, very scary. You give them that peace of mind. That's really helpful.
One of our biggest compliments, I would say, across the board for our entire team is when we have those initial consults, you can tell, and it's the most rewarding part of the process for us. At the end of that call, clients will say, you feel the weight of their shoulders, right, being lifted, and they say, man, I just feel so much better now. Thank you so much. I needed that. That's why we do this. That's what every attorney here and staff here should be driving for, having that, giving that level of service to our clients. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk a little bit about those 3 values. Good human. Talk about good human.
Yeah. So it's funny because you don't think that that should be a standard or an obvious concept. But look, lawyers they have a reputation for a reason. And it is incredibly important for us and what we're trying to build here and how we're being different that is a non-negotiable. You need to be able to treat clients with empathy, with respect, with integrity. There should never be a situation, and this is something that we've seen from other law firms with other attorneys. They fall into this superiority complex where if a question is asked of them, they talk down to clients. That should never happen here. So from the start, you need to have that empathetic bone. Rocco, he has a TED Talk talking about the unbillable hour. It's all about kindness. That entire TED Talk is about kindness. So he has started that from the very beginning, even before the inception of the firm, but that has carried us through all the way to current day and into the future.
Yeah, I love that. And my interaction with both of you both are great humans. I appreciate both of you for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk about entrepreneur now.
Yeah, I love this one. So we are not saying that we have to hire previous business owners. That's not the purpose behind or the driver behind having the entrepreneurial spirit. But you need to have the ability to see opportunities and to think like a business owner. So critical because business owners, they never turn it off. It's not 9 to 5. This is a 24-hour life that they are day in and day out trying to grow their business. So we need to be able to think like that. We need to be able to get creative or find creative solutions like them. We don't need yes people. We don't need no people. A lot of lawyers tend to err on the side of caution and try to get away with saying, no, you can't do that. That's not viable for business owners. Let's find a pathway forward where we are able to do that and we know the risks and we're willing to take calculated risks so we can get to the next level for the business owner. So having that entrepreneurial spirit, you got to find and be able to see those opportunities and capitalize on them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of my things I run into is you get 2 lawyers, like say a purchase agreement. And look, you got to protect your client 100%. You got to protect your client. But there are ways to get that purchase agreement done on both sides. And sometimes you get 2 lawyers to just go at it and it's hard.
I completely agree. And there's the ongoing issue that I see, especially for buying and selling businesses. A lot of attorneys think that they are proving their value in how many red lines that they can put in. It's like, it's that concept of that gotcha moment. They're showing their client, look at how all of these issues that I was able to identify, when in reality, some of those issues, maybe if it's typos or grammatical errors or just these small pieces, look, those don't move the needle. And that's the big part for us, especially when we're in those transactions. What actually moves the needle? What are non-negotiables for the clients? And what can we be flexible on? And that's what I like to do, especially not to get into the weeds with buying and selling businesses, but when we have attorneys exchanging documents, sure, you can take the first crack and look at the issues and have a conversation with your client, but really having a phone call in this world of AI and in this world of online and no face-to-face, no actual dialogue, for better or for worse, you get keyboard warriors where they think it's fine to absolutely destroy a document and think a deal is going to get done. That's many times attorneys are the biggest obstacle to get a deal done. When both parties are ready, willing, and able, they know the risk, they just want to get this done. And attorneys are more focused on their ego and trying to win a battle than actually trying to negotiate and find a pathway forward. So I, to your point, I think one of the biggest challenges is if you can just get on the phone with someone or have a meeting in person and say, look, here is why we're making these red lines. Here are why these are non-negotiables for our team. That, at least in our experience, has shown to be much more successful than just going back and forth, having red lines, absolutely destroying documents for the sake of doing so, and then proving our worth. That's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you know what? Picking up a telephone, I tell my agents the exact same thing. We don't anymore. It seems like no one wants to pick up the telephone. Just pick up the telephone versus the email and have a civilized conversation.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly you can diffuse a situation when you just pick up the phone. You would think if you read the emails, you would think the parties were in different zip codes of
Yeah.
how different the issues are. When you get on the phone or meet in person, you realize that they're in the same road. They're very close to each other on how we can get this deal done. But you just need to be able to pick up the phone.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. All right, let's talk about your third value, getting dirty.
Oh, yes. So this whole concept is that no job is beneath you. Rocco and I, we've started, if we're willing to, this goes internally, if we're willing to take out the garbage, so should you. Externally, when we're talking about clients, again, they have to find creative solutions. And you need to be willing to check your title, check your ego, and just be able to go above and beyond for a client. So well, I've worked at different law firms. I've seen different attorneys where, again, they don't want to pick up their phone. They don't want to be able to answer questions that are quote unquote beneath them. They don't want to deal with serious issues, especially when maybe you're, as an attorney, you're dealing with 400 issues all at once. That one issue for that client, that's their number one priority. So you need to be able to match that intensity. So you can't check out. You can't be able to just say, I'll deal with it next week. Look, if you're going to be in the space, then you need to be able to wear the hat. So that's the main crux of willingness to get dirty.
No, I like that. I like that for sure. What do you think the number one legal mistake you see in business owners make before selling their company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and we talked about it a little already, and the biggest legal mistake is, oh man, that's a great question. We could take this a few different ways. Recency bias, but I think this is important. I think a lot of business owners get excited about the number that's thrown out there. And you have buyers that come in that dangle these extraordinary figures and possibilities. And some business owners don't take the time to talk with their advisors, their financial advisors, their business brokers, their legal staff, to actually dive into what does that actually mean? Because many times the highest number doesn't mean the greatest value. And when you look at that high figure, okay, now we're talking about there's some holdbacks, there's some earnouts, there's going to be some contingencies of whether they're actually going to get payments. Maybe they're going to try to convert that into a seller note. And of course, if there's SBA considerations, a lot of times we're going to have to deal with standby notes. So these are all considerations where if someone throws you this huge figure, okay, is that really most advantageous to you? Or if we dive into the details, it turns out this lower value or this second deal that you're getting paid full at closing is actually the better option. So while that's not directly legal, I think that across the board, that is highly critical, that I think confuses a lot of business owners and makes them go down a different path that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, and I will speak about business brokers. That's one thing I don't respect that sometimes we do is they just look at the value, because obviously the higher the value, the more money we make. But I just don't believe in that. I believe in what's best for the client. And like you said, sometimes that second value, even though it's lower, is the best deal for your client.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've dealt with My wife owns a dental practice, and she's run into situations too where she's seen her peers, especially for that professional service base. When you are the face of the company, or in that situation, a face of a practice, when you are trying or looking for a seller or a buyer, that buyer is going to need you for a certain period of time post closing. So again, another consideration, some people, a lot of our clients and the folks that we work with, business owners that we work with, they're looking to transition into the next chapter of their life. And when you realize that the buyer is going to need you, especially for something like the dental industry, they need you for years beyond closing to truly transition the practice over to the new staff. That can be an extremely burdensome requirement to ensure payment of the actual sale.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Can a bad legal structure kill the value of the business?
Yes. So are you the question outside of a sale, or just generally?
Just general.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So when we're talking about the legal structure of a business, we can get into a lot of different conversations, especially from the tax implication side. So when we're as the legal counsel for strategic counsel for a particular business owner, we start asking, who is your accountant? Who's your CPA? It is so important to have the team and advisors be on the same page and be aligned, because the accountant may be thinking something completely different than what the legal structure looks like. And when they don't agree, you could be facing either double taxation, or if you're going the other way, maybe there is a particular strategy like getting an S corporation and achieving some tax benefits that way that maybe the legal staff weren't aware of, that the accounting behind the scenes was working on. So you need to have your team of advisors working together, because again, from a legal standpoint, we can get very customized. We can be flexible in how we structure this. But if your advisors aren't on the same page, yes, that legal structure could extremely diminish the value of the business.
Yeah, I love that answer. I tell my clients, my agents all the time, bring the team together, because you're exactly right. Sometimes it is legal versus accounting, and it doesn't have to even be that way. So sometimes let's pick up the telephone and just talk about this for sure.
Yes.
What do most business buyers or sellers totally underestimate legally?
Underestimate. I think what we've seen here, and again, what I would say, just with deals that have been coming through probably the past 18 to 24 months, you need to understand what you're buying. So I'll answer this through the buyer's lens for this one.
Mm-hmm.
When buyers come in, you need to understand who is answering the questions in the room. I've done some articles on this point directly, but who's answering the questions? Because if you're buying a business and the only one answering questions is the owner of the business, and you're about to lose them, we've run into situations and we've tried to guide clients to this, understanding this risk, because we've seen situations where the seller, they have closing, and then closing plus one, they're gone. They're on vacation. They're not going to be coming back for a few weeks. And the buyer is standing there saying, I don't know how to run this business. The only one who can answer questions and who knows the relationships and who knows the staff is loyal to the prior owner. The staff is not yet loyal to you. And you need to understand that. So when you're coming in and you don't know how to run this business, that puts you in a very tough position. So I would say right out of the gates, the buyers need to understand, do you have a team there that's ready to run the business closing plus one? And from the sales side, it's almost the inverse of that, because when the buyers understand that, they're going to want some sort of transition services. And a lot of times I caution sellers, transition services are necessary and they can be acceptable and agreeable. Absolutely. That can be a requirement, but be careful. when you drag it on, it's like a bad breakup. It can turn into a bad breakup because when you are a seller and you're now post-close and you're sticking around, not just for days or weeks, but now you're going into months post-closing. There's going to be times where you're sitting there thinking, this is not how I would have done it. Or we've run into situations, we've had that seller's remorse. I can't believe they're driving my company into the ground. What I've built for decades, they're driving into the ground. And this is where peace of mind comes in. This is where we work with sellers to go through, and we can talk about this, but you need to be personally ready and your business has to be attractive to a third party. A lot of sellers forget about that first part. Are you personally ready? You need to be okay when you sell this business to walk away and realize, yes, you want to hope and set up the buyer for success. You don't want your employees that you've been taking care of for decades to be on a sinking ship. But you need to be okay once you get to closing that someone new is going to be making decisions. So my biggest recommendation is how can we shorten up that transition services? Because if you drag it on, it's inevitable when you start to get a little bit of resentment with the current owner and the current regime that's now making the decisions.
I love and respect an answer. And I will tell you, Reddy kind of jumped at me because that's one of the main questions I ask when I first sit down with the seller. If I sell your company today, what are you doing tomorrow?
Yes. Yes.
And I don't want to say they have no answer, but like it does concern me a little bit because I agree with everything you just said. If you're really not ready, you're really not ready to sell, you really don't have a plan, it does cause problems down the road usually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the question that we get. And I think it's inadvertent from clients when they come and they ask us, is my business ready? Is my business ready to sell? I said, well, hold on, I think you're melting two concepts together because it's not the business that's ready yet. Step one is, are you ready? Let's talk about, like you were saying, do you have a personal plan? Do you have a financial plan? And even outside of financials, what are your goals? Where do you see yourself in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years? What do you want to be doing? Selling a business is just an end of a chapter. That's not your story. Your story is an ending. So we need to be prepared for that because a lot of sellers, and you probably have seen this even more so than us, but many sellers are burned out and they just want to be done. And that is such a tough spot because as the advisors, we're trying to get to a point of optimism and what are the next steps? What are the next chapters? And they have such blinders on of this huge pain point now that they don't see anything other than I need to dig myself out of this hole, right? I need to get out of where I am currently. I'll deal with that down the road. And that would be incredibly, incredibly dangerous because again, post-close, all of those levels are going to drop. And then you're looking around and they say, who am I? So that's step one. Then you can transition over. Once you figure out, are you personally ready? Then you can start talking about, all right, let's look at our business. Is the business attractive to a third party? Because if it is, it doesn't matter if you want to sell today, if you're ready today, or if you're ready 5 years from now. As long as you have your business in a spot where it is attractive to a third party, then you can flip the switch at any point in time. Then you have positioned yourself in a way where now you can jump on any opportunity. It goes back to entrepreneurial spirit on our end, right? So now they can jump at any opportunity because they'd answered that first question.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. What, just in simple, I know this is going to be a very complicated question, but just in simple terms, what's the difference between an asset sale versus stock sale?
Yeah, absolutely. So an asset sale, what we have told clients is think of an asset sale is just movement of all of the assets to your own entity. It's like a clean slate and you're just buying assets and putting them into your own entity. When you're in a stock sale, imagine the seller is getting up from their chair and they're walking out and you're stepping right into their shoes and moving forward with the business. There's no new entity. You keep the same entity, you keep the same EIN. But here's the big concern or consideration. When you have an asset sale, it's like you're drawing a line in the sand because you're on a beach and you're just picking up the assets or the sandcastle and you're putting it over here, and it's you made sure the sand and the foundation was great over here. When you walk over there and it's already bumpy and people have walked through the sand and the waves are already coming in and taking apart the castle, you're inheriting all of that. That's something to consider. So all of the liabilities that have been lingering in the background, or all of the liabilities, skeletons in the closet, right? That all comes with it. So those are the two big, those are the differences between the asset sale and a stock sale.
I love how you broke that down. I love the beat, so I'm going to use that in the future. I love that. That is really good. Seriously.
Hey, if we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you have to wish for better weather. So
That's true. That's true for sure. What do most people miss in NDAs or letters of intent that bite them later?
A great question, because a lot of times as legal counsel, we run into situations where initial consult, hey, we've already set up the NDA. We've already signed the LOI. We need now to go through from LOI to close. That's what we need you for, which is fine. It happens. It happens a lot. But LOIs, while most LOIs are non-binding, make sure of that, you're missing a huge opportunity. Again, we get back, you asked the question of what are some of the big legal challenges that people forget about closings? You can tackle that at the LOI stage. So when we talk about purchase price, yeah, sure, you could throw in a huge number and move past the purchase price at the LOI stage. But once we get involved, now we have to start talking about how are these strings attached? How does that look post-closing? And the whole goal of an LOI is what's material, what are these non-negotiables for both sides? And when you have a burned out seller who just wants to let's keep the wheels moving, let's go, they will get to a point where they'll sign an LOI, they'll leave these huge pieces missing. And now we have to take a step back. And here's a big issue. You have a burned out seller. A lot of deals don't get closed in a few days. So they have due diligence burnout and deal burnout, where they keep getting closer and closer to a potential close, and then it gets pushed, and then it gets pushed. And then they get to a point where they're starting to accept all sorts of additional terms that are coming in from the buyer because they're just exhausted now. Sure, that's fine. Let's accept that. Let's accept this piece now too. And it starts to put them into a worse spot. So what I would say is make sure you're talking to all of your advisors and really get those material terms down at the LOI stage. You don't have to negotiate the entire deal. But again, a lot of times, and I'm using purchase price as a good example, where they just bypass what really should be worked out at the beginning, so you don't waste all the legal fees and the time and the energy to go through a deal only to realize in the 11th hour, oh, I don't accept this. I wanted 85% of the money down at closing. They're only going to give me 30% down at closing. Well, that's a huge issue. And we just spent the past 60 days fighting to get to this point, and now we have to start over again. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen, especially for LOIs, that's missed right out of the gates.
No, I agree. That's great advice. How can business owners protect themselves before they even think about selling?
Oh, this is another great question. And so I've went through the process and I've gotten the certified exit planning advisor. So I am an advisor under the acronym of CEPA, right? So what the big push is, exit planning is just good business strategy. You don't have to be on the doorstep of selling a business to start thinking about, okay, what are my next steps? You should be incorporating, it goes back to that question about personal readiness and attractiveness. You want to make sure your business remains attractive. So what does that mean? A big concept as a CEPA is this idea of the 4 C's and how the 4 C's really affect the buyer's viewpoint of your business. So when we talk about the 4 C's of business, we're talking about, what does your human capital look like? So do you have the right people in the right seats? We talked a little bit about who's answering those questions. If a buyer comes in and only the owner, the founder are answering those questions, we have a problem. So who do you have supporting your team? The next is the customer capital. Do you have a diverse customer base, or all your eggs in one basket? It's a huge issue. We've run into it where situations for a particular seller, one customer left, and that was 30% of the business. Now, unfortunately, that purchase price is going to fall drastically. So what does your customer capital look like? Third is structural capital. This is something that is so critically important for all businesses. What are your processes? Again, we're not immune to it. When we first started, it was so easy for Rocco and I to be on the same page, be aligned, and know where we're going. But when we start adding people, what are your processes? Are they written down? If someone were to, God forbid, get sick and have to step out for a certain period of time, could someone come in and pick up the slack? So critically important. And the last one is the social capital. What's your culture look like? Are people willing to, again, willingness to get dirty, are your individuals willing to help each other out? Are they happy to come into work? Do they like the coworkers? Are they loyal to the just one person and working in silos, or are they helping everyone? So when we talk about exit strategy and exit planning, you can do this well in advance, years in advance, because if you focus on just those 4 things, those 4 C's of business, that is going to be wildly successful and driving a higher multiple when a buyer does come in.
I think that answer, I've actually written several posts about, because I think that's a huge part of deals. Great advice for buyers and sellers, both ways, for sure. Yeah. I love that. All right, a little bit of a crazy question just to break up the. Have you ever seen someone lose their business or a deal because of a handshake agreement?
Yes. So I'll take it a couple different ways, because this is so many business owners, and this is a frustrating point. So advisors, this is your responsibility to make sure business owners understand this. Many business owners, if they've been in business for decades, they've run their business a lot of times on handshake deals. You're a great guy. I'm a great guy. I trust you. You trust me. And they've run their business like that. There's not to get into details, but working on a deal where we've had to go back as the seller's rep to go back and actually memorialize certain contracts, because even though they've been ongoing for years, the buyer came in and has said through their due diligence, where are all these contracts? The seller said, we don't need them. And as well, you do if you want to drive that multiple up. So we had to do the exercise of, let's take a step back. Let's meet with these customers and let's get something in writing. I know they trust you, and I get that. And there's always an element of sellers simply say, no, I'm not going. They're going to be scared off because now you're entering, legal reps are in the room now, or trying to have conversations. They're going to take it as though you're trying to back them into a corner. These are real conversations that we've had. And to your point, that has killed deals before, because many business owners simply say, I don't operate that way, and I'm not going to operate that way. Understood, but the risk in that is a lower multiple or no multiple at all. So some considerations, but it without a doubt happens, and it's frequent, because a lot of these older businesses that have been around for 20, 30 years, that's common.
I agree. It's totally common, for sure. What's the legal myth you wish every entrepreneur would forget?
This was a big driver when we first started. And we can dive into this a little bit more, but a legal myth is that attorneys are only there to ring the register. And it is so critically important for business owners to know that there are, and this is not just legal now, it is so important to have advisors in their corner. They are out there, and it may take some time to find. I get it. There are some financial advisors who don't care about you. They're the legal industry. They're going to find attorneys that don't care about you, but they are out there. They are out there. And this is a huge value in a podcast like this, because you're able to identify some advisors who truly care. So when we talk about legal myths, I can promise you there are good attorneys out there. There's certainly bad apples. That's without a doubt. Like I said, when we first started, attorneys have earned their reputation for the most part, but that is shifting. The tides are turning. So I encourage any business owner, the importance of advisors.
No, I agree with you. And I say the same thing about business brokers. I always tell people, though, take the time. It may not be me. Find a business broker, find a lawyer, find a CPA that you really trust. Because this purchase agreement, this selling your business is like a little marriage for 6, 8 a year. Find the one that you really believe in.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's such a great point too, because when we talk, the analogy that I give clients is people talk about their home being their biggest investment, right? They talk about that's my biggest investment of my life. Think about how business owners get so burned out where they don't talk about exit planning well in the future. And they get to a point where they say, okay, now I want to sell by the end of the year. Think about that from the perspective of home ownership. Imagine one day you just get so tired that you say, I'm going to put my house up on market without doing anything to it, without updating the kitchen, without updating the bathrooms, without putting fresh paint on the walls. All of those things are going to increase the price of that sale. But when it comes to the business, they just say, I want to sell by the end of the year. I don't care what we get. I'm done. It's the same concept. You should be spending time on making sure your business is attractive to a third party. So when you do sell, you're getting the highest multiple. So I completely agree that it's something that is missed by both advisors and business owners.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know you do exit planning through SEPA. I do succession planning, same thing. But I really wish businesses would know, start planning 3 to 5 years out because of
Absolutely.
all things you just said.
Yep.
So what's a small legal tweak that saved the client 6 figures or more? There's something, just a little tweak you did that really helped a business client make extra money.
Well, I'll use this as an example because it's a feel-good story, and it's just obviously rewarding for the client, but rewarding for us as well. Another situation where a client was burned out, was looking to sell their business. They were in a tough spot because they were tied up with, it was very successful, but tied up with a franchisor. And they didn't know what to do. And the tweak that we made was, it was a little bit of posture. I mean, it was a little bit of gamesmanship. Mm-hmm. But what we did was, rather than try to fight and find a third-party buyer, we decided to bring in the franchisor and said, these folks may be a willing third-party buyer. Let's not just push them out of this potential deal. So what we've done, we did not, and I can say this now because this was long ago, but what we did was, we were going to market. We got the whole process in place. We didn't have a third-party buyer yet, but it was when we flipped the switch to then go to the franchisor and say, look at this business. We're going to market. Rather than going to market and getting these third parties, we'll give you a discounted deal. And it was a strategy that the seller wasn't even thinking about, because again, as a franchisor, they were more looking towards third-party buyers. And I said, let's go through this process, even though it was a burned out client, even though we didn't have anyone on the hook for a potential buyer. What we were able to do was this. It was a beautiful package, that we were going to market. And then right before we flipped that switch, we went to the franchisor. They loved it. They ate it up and they said, yes, we'll match that. And that's how we got the deal done. And it was a situation where the client was ready to shut off the lights because they couldn't find a buyer. They couldn't find any third party that was interested. They didn't want to do that extra work. And I said, here's the last ditch effort. I think we can do this. Let's put the package together. We're going to make it look like it is a phenomenal buy. And then let's pitch it to the franchisor. And it worked. And it got someone who was at retirement age, attributing the business as, I'm not getting anything out of this, I'm shutting off the lights, to getting a major payday and being able to actually ride off. It was like the cherry on top for the clients. So it was a phenomenal experience for us because it was a risky maneuver, but it worked.
Yeah, I love the creativity. And
Yeah.
that's what the deals are a lot of times. Sometimes it's creativity, for sure.
Yes, 100%.
What shocked you early in your career that you now see every day?
The introduction of AI. I mean, it is everywhere. So I don't think the legal industry isn't immune, but I don't think any industry is. I think AI is going to be impacting every single space out there. And you need, what's fascinating about it is you can't ignore it or you're going to lose. And you can't fully rely on it or you're going to lose, because we have clients who now, and I've seen this a lot. I don't know if you have as well, but we've seen clients who have uploaded their contracts onto a place like ChatGPT. That confidentiality is gone. That's out there now. We've had clients who have put their intellectual property out onto ChatGPT and started working on code. And these are all fascinating questions, but I think the argument, at least our belief, is that that's not protectable information anymore. You're putting that out there into the cloud, right? So is that actually your IP now at that point? So you need to be able to strike a balance in the space where, yes, you need to be able to use that as a tool, like any other tool a professional services company has, using the legal industry as one, being able to use that as a tool to help the clients and the business owners get to the next step. Again, when clients rely on it, you start to view, again, using legal industry, you start to view them as a commodity. And we are relationship based. We're trying to be a strategic advisor. And when you think you can utilize something like AI to be able to commoditize something like the legal industry, that's the big risk. That's where you start to see some serious opportunities missed, because you can't commoditize a relationship-based business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What's one challenge our listener community could help you solve?
So we started the firm, and our first question when we started the firm was, what are attorneys doing wrong? And it was amazing consistency, lack of communication, lack of empathy, the ability to talk down. We were talking about all of this at the beginning, the ability that attorneys are talking down to us. So that's how we started. We need to find out what they're doing wrong and then be able to not do those things. But now the biggest value is, what are people doing right? What are some of the things that they see out there that are doing phenomenal? I love how this person does X, Y, Z. That's great, because we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. Now we are ahead of the curve because we have eliminated all the pain points for clients or our clients with what they've done with before, who they've dealt with before. Now it's, where can we now have an exponential growth, the hockey stick growth of what are people doing right? And let's build upon that and get extremely better at that. I was at a conference with Ed Stack, the CEO or former CEO of Dick's Sporting Goods. And I love his main concept was, you need to build the thing that will kill your business. And the whole idea behind that was, you should not let your competition build something that that you could already be building. If it's going to be a pain point, that's okay. Build it, because you would rather be the company that has built it and is able to grow with it, rather than look across the street and realize they put in the time, they put in the effort, and they built upon something that was already great and made it better. And now everyone's going over there. So you should be the one who builds the thing that could kill your business.
Perfect. I should say the first half. We speak more in first half, but the first half we learned from you. Let's learn a little bit about you before we let you go. So growing up, little Matt, did you always know you're going to be a lawyer and running, be a partner in a law firm?
No, no, absolutely not. So I am the youngest of four. So I have three older brothers. I got my fair share of whoopings from my older brothers, but we were always entrepreneurs in our own right. Even now, through their careers, I have the ability and privilege to see how much success that they have seen, and they're all entrepreneurial in their own right. So I'm not surprised that I've landed kind of in this niche, but certainly not where I currently am. Again, I was an accountant in my prior life. Everything tied out, everything reconciled, everything was black and white. The biggest challenge that I had was when I went from being an accountant to the legal field, now to here running a law firm with Rocco. Everything is great. There's no definite answer. There's no certainty. Every day is different. And what I would say for anyone, and especially with my type of background as an accountant, that will be one of your biggest, if not the biggest struggle that you have when you go from something that is so step 1 through 10 to betting on yourself and becoming a business owner and growing a business. All of that certainty goes out the window. So some things to think about. So no, never thought I'd be in this situation, but I love it. I love the idea of you can build a culture, you can build a staff, you can build kind of a legacy. That's really what it comes down to, building a legacy that outlives you, where you can grow something so incredibly special beyond yourself.
You kind of said this already, but what makes Cozza different?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a little bit, but I mean, client service is front and center. Again, what we tell clients is we are entrepreneurs who happen to sell legal services. And I think that is something so incredibly important, where other law firms just miss the mark. Again, we're not a commodity-based business. We're relationship-based. And that's not a one-way street. You need to have clients that know you, that like you, and trust you. And until you get to that third stage of trust, you're just a commodity. You're just giving documents to clients, and they're going to move on with their day. So where we're different is just that. We understand that whole process and what it takes to get to that third level of trust. And that's our main focus, like how we started. We provide peace of mind to our clients.
Yeah, I love it. What do you see you and Rocco, your law firm, going over the next couple of years? What are you guys working on?
Oh, we're excited. So we're here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have licenses in many different states. So I'm incredibly excited, not only growing our presence here, but I'm licensed in Florida. I think there's a huge opportunity in Florida. We're licensed in Tennessee and New York, among other states around Pennsylvania or adjoining Pennsylvania. So where I see these next 18 to 24 months is continued growth and a foothold here, but also expanding into other states. So I'm very excited for it.
Yes, I've seen you guys grow. You guys are doing a heck of a job. If you can go back in time and meet yourself the day you founded, or say the day you joined Rocco's firm, what advice would you give yourself now?
Oh, that's great. So I think the biggest one is stay disciplined. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of young people will focus on comparison with their peer group. And they think that that's them setting a floor for themselves. In actuality, they're setting a ceiling. Be your own bar and stay disciplined. I use the example of when we're growing up, my friends and I we would go into runs and we would go into the local races, the 5Ks, the half marathons, and we would always be in competition with each other. That was fun. But so long as you beat out your friends and your peers, that was the baseline. And that's kind of where you stopped your growth because you're already a winner. If you maintain and just stay inward and disciplined with yourself, you're now your own barometer where you're going to continue to push yourself and be a little bit better and be a little bit better. And you are going to realize that you're going to be light years ahead of where you currently are if you just throw away all of that externality and where everyone else is. Focus on yourself and stay disciplined.
I love it. What do you do outside of work?
Yeah, so my wife and I have two little kids. We have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. So they are our world right now. They are so much fun. But when we get time, I mentioned it, I do enjoy staying active. I think I've done the Pittsburgh Marathon 3 times. It's so much fun. I'd love to go into different cities and states and stay active that way. Last year, I finished the half Ironman. So that was a completely different experience. I am not a swimmer and I am not a biker. And so I don't know why I would have signed up for something like that, but it was phenomenal, challenging. So hopefully we can get back to that. But right now we are running around with toddlers and trying to chase them down. So active in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what's harder. I have triathlon or run around after kids, to be honest with you.
It may be kids. I don't know. It may be kids.
Yeah, I agree with you. So if clients want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you, sir?
Yeah. So visit our website, cozzalaw.com. Shoot an email to me directly. Give me a direct call. All of my clients, for better or for worse, if they have my cell phone. So once I have clients call me on my way to work when I'm driving at 5:30 in the morning, and they are calling me late at night. And that again, to me, that's the fun of it. When you are an advisor and a strategic advisor that is trusted to that level, that's why we do this. So go visit cozzalaw.com. I hope to talk to everyone soon. Happy to help out, even if it's for an initial consult and it doesn't work out. Like you were saying, it may not work out. We may not be the best fit, but that's okay. I'm happy to point you in the right direction or help as much as we can.
I want to thank you definitely for being on the podcast. I love all your answers. You broke some very complicated issues down into very simple ways. So I appreciate your time for sure about that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was fantastic.
I want to thank my audience. If you learned something today or laughed, please tell somebody about the podcast. Matt, thanks again. This has been another exciting episode of Steel City Growth. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Steel City Growth. Thanks for joining us. For show notes and more, visit steelcitygrowth.live. Steel City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, offering expert guidance in buying, selling, and valuing businesses to help you achieve your goals. Until next time.